you'll have the phrase, for example, أود أن يفعل كذا. I wish that he did such and such. So the word love in this sense, waddada, means to want something, or to affect something, or to esteem something. But here it's something. It's outside. So actually, hub is about something inside you. Mawadda is about something which is outside of you. So your mawadda is towards the person that you love. And it's about esteem, about status of that thing, that person, and about the other. So you can see that the love actually has two aspects in the Arabic language or in the Quranic language. You have love, which relates to how you feel about somebody, and also how you impact on that person's being. Like, how often do you say to your wife or husband, I love you? Maybe I should send, I have a friend who sends really funny messages, usually in cartoons, on WhatsApp. I don't know where he picks these all up, but one of them was a man and a woman. The woman says to the man, honey, you used to buy me flowers and jewellery and presents. And the husband says, and? You don't anymore. And then he turns around and he says, have you ever heard of a fisherman giving worms to a fish after he's caught it? Oh, why am I saying that? Okay. He has... If love is about attraction, about getting the person, then afterwards you might take that attitude. But actually the question is, how often do you say I love you? And what impact does that have? And also when there's times where you say I love you and it has a massive impact. And I know, I'll give an example, that sometimes Sarah will say something, did you do such and such? And I'll say, I love you. Which means, yes, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I'm so stupid. I'll try not to be stupid again, and I'm less stupid than I was before you told me off the last time, is really what I meant to say. But instead of saying that, I just say, I love you, and I get away with it. And then there's other times where it's actually really important just to say, you know, I love you. Because that I love you means different things. And and I'm sorry for being personal, but sometimes you have to put it in a personal context for it to make any sense. So in our personal context, there's times where you could imagine that because she's been ill, she's lost a lot of confidence in who she is, and the fact that she says, for example, why don't you take another wife? Every woman knows that the answer to that is because, no, I won't, because I love you. And every man that has been married for a long time and stayed married knows that that's a trick question. There is no answer which could be correct other than, I would never take another wife because I love you. That's the only way you could get out of this. You can't say yes, you can't say no. It has to be about how much, but in her circumstance, it is a difficult situation. Now there are times where you have to say, I love you. But it's not, oh, I love you. It's, I love you for who you are at this point in my life. You're exactly what I need, and I don't want anything else. I love you. And that I love you has got to be much more than just words. And it's not about being deep inside here, it's actually about the relationship with the one outside. It's muwadda. So muwadda is about the outside, going outward to that person. how you treat that person with your love. And sometimes, there was a dars that I was giving many, many years back, and it was one of the camps where people just go off and they go to a mosque for a week, and some sheikh comes from another country or another city and teaches them all this Islamic stuff, and they all go home and they're all kind of really clever. That's the, you know these kind of camps? So this was one of these camps, and Alhamdulillah, I used to do some of these camps before. So I went off to this camp, and a lot of the people come to these camps because they want to get away from whatever they want to get away from. And some girls go there because they want to meet guys. Some guys go because there are all these Islamic girls there, and I'm sure you're going to bump into somebody in the corridor. And anyway, some guy's bound to have a sister. So it's not the healthiest of environments, and it's not what I would consider to be the most Islamic and best way to. And there was one guy who came there because he couldn't stand his wife. And the reason he attended this course was because he just wanted to get away from her. And it was pretty obvious. And after a couple of days, he just came up to me and he told me, he says, I'm not really here to listen to you. It's been quite interesting, but I just came here because I can't stand my wife. And I don't think she can stand me, and I just think it's gonna be destroyed. And we just can't move forward, and I've just had enough, and I just wanted to get out, and I thought sleeping in a mosque and getting all of this Islamic stuff is a good thing. So I says, well, is there anything we could do to help you? He says, nah. My wife would never listen to anybody. She's the worst woman on the planet. She's the devil incarnate. He didn't quite say that, but that's what he meant. And I said, she can't be that bad. I'm sure she'll listen. She says, well, you can try. I said, I wasn't offering. I mean, did I offer? You can try. Well, it meant, I says, okay. So you're willing to come and meet my wife? That's not what I'd said, but anyway. So he phones her up and says, look, I came to this course because I wanted to get away from you. Well, anyway, I met this sheikh, and he's pretty cool, and he wants to talk to you. So it's not the best way to move forward, is it? Anyway, so we drive down from Birmingham to the city where they live, and on the way he talks. So I says, tell me about your wife. So he gives me some basic information, what her name was and how old she is and what she does as a profession. Good. So when we get there, we come in, no kufiya, no thobe, just wearing my shirt and trousers. Came in, and so I asked her, so I heard you had an Ofsted inspection. What? No, I just heard, your husband was telling me about your Ofsted inspection. They were really tough. I can remember my last inspection. Ofsted is the government who inspects schools. She's a teacher. So we started talking about education, and he's like gone off to make tea, and I just looked at him, just take your time. Just don't come back. We don't need you. We're talking about school. So we start talking about school, and after a while she's trying to think, well, I thought he was going to come with a sheikh. So when's this sheikh going to turn up? He brings this other dude. So he comes back and says, oh, I hear you getting on well with the sheikh. And she's thinking, I'm really confused now. So he says, this is the sheikh I was telling you about. And you can see she's even more confused. So I says, well, I'm not a sheikh, but your husband said, you're having problems, and I've been invited to give this talk, and I've been talking and teaching, and he said, why don't I come and meet you? So he invited me for a tea, and I took up his offer, and we've just driven for 3 hours to come and see you. And then she realizes this is a setup. This sheikh is pretending to be a teacher, and that he's trying to trick me into marriage counselling. And of course I'm not. So he says, all right, so what do you want then? How are you going to fix our marriage? He says, I'm not. Oh, good. So I realised, okay, that's what he meant by but obviously he's got a lot of anger. So then I said, look, he wants to talk, you want to talk, and if you want to put this right, I'm willing to help you if you want to. She says, all right, okay, talk. He says, no, not until you hold hands. I ain't holding hands with him. All right, then thanks for the tea. I'll see you another time. Now she's got a choice to make. Does she do what I tell her? Or do I leave and then that chance for... And it's obvious that she does trust me a little bit. All right, I'll hold his hand. And as soon as they started to hold hands, I says, okay, tell me what's wrong. But the fact that they were holding hands meant it really difficult. It was really difficult because there was this kind of muwadda, this love. There was some love between them that could only be expressed through holding hands. And the Prophet ﷺ talked about holding hands and about the relationship with a man and a woman isn't just the relationship of Abdullah ibn Umar, which we talked about. He breaks his fast. How does he break his fast? He goes and has intercourse with his wife. That's not the only thing that a wife and a husband need to do. They need to hold hands. They need to have this relationship. And this love was being expressed. And it was really difficult for them to speak badly of each other while they're holding hands. And it wasn't just a trick. It was actually to see what muwadda there was between them. They started to talk. And then after a while they started to talk about things that really mattered. But they never stopped holding hands. And so the conversation wasn't with me alone. It was between them. And it was built on muwadda. And probably one of the happiest days I ever had was a year later visiting them and seeing how happy they were. And as if they'd never ever had problems in their life, it was almost weird to see this couple. And then probably the only time that surpassed that was when they asked me to come and do the tahniq for their baby a couple of years after that. And there wasn't much counselling. It was actually holding hands that broke down this barrier. So when the question is what is love, it's easy to use the word hub. It's easy to use the word muwadda and say, well, they're just direct translations, but they're not. Muwadda is about that feeling outward towards somebody. And you need muwadda. Allah says that He put in the hearts of people muwadda wa rahmah. Two qualities. Muwadda and rahmah. Now, love and mercy.
Yeah.
Muwadda and rahmah? Love and mercy. Okay, love and mercy. Some scholars say muwadda comes first and rahmah comes afterwards. And that's true. That's how it appears in the Quran. Because sometimes muwadda disappears. Love goes. But hopefully by that time there's enough rahmah in somebody's heart to keep the marriage going. Because I can remember, it's very rare that I want to beat people up nowadays. But there was one guy, I really wanted to beat him up. And it's a good job we did this session over the phone, because I think if I met him and he said what he said about his wife, I think I would have beaten him up, because it was just at that point in my life where he needed a good kicking. Why did he need a good kicking? He said his wife was fat. That's why he doesn't love her anymore. Only twice have I heard that from a husband, and the first time he did get a good kicking. The second time it was on the phone, so he didn't get a good kicking. And I talked to him. Allah says He put muwadda in your heart wa rahmah. And there is a time in your life where you might not find that person attractive anymore. Especially when she's just given to a birth to your child. No wonder she's a bit fat. You know, it was you that made her fat. And if you don't find her attractive, it's not her fault. And the marriage needs to move to a different level, because now you have your second child. And you need to give that rahmah. So muwadda is a type of love. Hub is a type of love. But rahmah is something else which is needed in that. That's why it's mentioned specifically. Muwadda wa rahmah. Anyway, that hopefully answers a question about love. Any questions about love? Beyond what I've just said? No questions? That's really surprising. think the next one was challenges in marriage. Right, this is the difficult one. Do you want me to go over? I know the time is quite limited now, so we're not going to cover everything. How long do we have?
Half an hour.
Half an hour till the end. Okay. So I think now we need to prioritize. We can go through some of these. What were the next things on the list? I've lost my notes. So anyone that's got the poster, they can translate it to English for me. I know divorce was one of them. How to be a better spouse. That's an easy one. Can I do that one? How to be a better spouse.
This is the most important.
Right. What you need to do is to study the Shama'il of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You need to understand him. And the more you understand him as a person, the better you will be as a husband or a wife. Because you'll see in his relationships how skilled he was. Now what I just said, people might think, wow, he's a good counsellor. I ain't a good counsellor. I studied the Shama'il, that's all. I know that if you hold hands, love will come between people. And if it doesn't, you're probably better off getting a divorce. I know certain things. Why do I listen to all that rubbish that my wife asked me to talk about when I come home? It's because I love her. But also I know that sometimes you need to tease your wife. And you need to be teased by your wife. You should hear some of the things she calls me. It's unbelievable. Sometimes she's even called me in the dars. And I've learned the names of almost all the animals in Urdu and Punjabi. The first one I learned was Kotia. And then Kutta. And I've learned parts of the anatomy that even sometimes I say to Punjabis knowing that they don't even know what that means. But it's alright, because she says it lovingly. And some words I just say, look, don't say that in public, because people will turn around to you and say, how can you call the Shaykh a donkey?